So then we are back with more understandings on the time of the second tabernacle services, where we find in the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Itzaelic lineage, so then we can understand the time of the end. As per Yirmiyahu the prophet, then we find in the 61st chapter the time of restoration, and then in conjunction with it from Mediciyahu, the 24th chapter, we find in the time of reduction. In these couple of understandings then, along with other layers from other prophets, such as then Ezekiel, we find many areas in Daniel, and then we can conclude very clearly the Creator then has His way as He had during the time of His duty when He was in charge of the Holy of Holies prior of the spring feast. There are certain areas of this time of restoration very important then for us, being very acquainted with it, regarding then the requirements from the Creator regarding this special time in the history of this planet. So then, as we understand, the Creator has made the heavens and the earth. He has made then the sea, the animals, and the fish. He has made then the birds of the air and every herb, the bugs and whatsoever living creatures He has made, and He is very particular as far as His creation. We can understand during this time of restoration His intricate understanding of His creation, as He has then His agenda prior of taking place of those events on it. Then we can understand what to expect. So then let's verify 61st chapter of Yirmiyahu and understand then tabernacling. How was then tabernacling during the time of the Messiah? We find many areas of the world where countries were then scandalizing themselves, yet when the Messiah was in charge. So then we find people not paying taxes. We find then other cultures then taking advantage of tabernacling. We find then many people not paying their dues. And then later in 1009, from the regular calendar or the pagan calendar, we find then obviously from the Creator's calendar would be 6009. Then we find the cities gone. No more cities. We've entered the time of the seat. Then later we find in 7009 then the increasing of knowledge and the ending of the time of the seat. Ending of devil. There is no longer devil. Devil doesn't exist. We've entered the time of the dragon. So for every season and time we must update our data and properly act as such. So then, during this time where we find, during the time of dragon, we then have the time of restoration per the Creator's agenda. It's no longer the Messiah, because the Messiah had his time of 1,000 years, and he did what he must, and then during this time the Creator Himself is then in charge again, because it's a restoring time per the prophecy of Yirmiyahu, because he said even the heathen would understand the mighty works of the Creator regarding tabernacling of the restoration period. But then the prophet's not making a reference of the Messiah. He's making a reference of the Creator Himself. So we can understand the Creator then having His hands upon this planet and organizing per His standards. It's no longer the Messiah's standards, is by then the Creator's standards. This means whatsoever is pagan must be clearly marked pagan. What is then scoundrelized or halfway saving is then scoundrelized or then pagan. what is tabernacling must be posted clearly tabernacling. No mixing. So during this time of restoration, let's be very clear of what's coming. Areas of the world where there is deceit is going to be marked as deceit, and it's going to be handled a certain way. Those areas that are pagan, they're going to remain pagan. So whatsoever then the angel said to Daniel, those who are filthy, those who are scoundrels, remain scoundrels and filthy. Those who are from the Messiah, they remain as the Messiah. But then he was speaking from the Creator's viewpoint, because he was speaking on behalf of heaven. So then we can understand what's coming. So then, as tabernacling then becomes available in very short time until, let's understand what's going to be of the Christianity that does not exist. We are speaking of an area of religion mixed up, where then even Daniel the prophet said would be mixed up for some time. But we are not longer living in those sometime. We are out of those sometime. So what is scandalized, halfway saving, halfway not saving, must be clearly marked. It must be then clearly dealt with. So then let's verify how this filtering system is going to take place as far as trade is concerned, because tabernacling is always 100%. We find the holy instructions, then the set apart people involved with instructions. They were born for this reason. If they don't do their tasks, there is no reason for their existence. So then, let's understand what goes on then with the rest of the world. Those that are from the time of the seat involved with halfway saving, halfway scandalized, they're going to be dealt with the kingdom of the north. Very simple. There is no BS up there. They do understand Christianity, and they do build also very robust equipment. So since we understand then the kingdom of the east, they have the forward motion as far as factory is concerned. We understand also the kingdom of the south is related with lots of minerals and then ores and then raw materials. We understand the future is going to be extremely busy. The Messiah said, Gala 1:8 related with our period of time. Gala 1:8 relates with the time of the dragon. Then we understand the Messiah explaining, and the freighters of the earth. We understand the freighters are going to be in charge. Then what are the steps of formation until the freighters are in charge? Because we are speaking of what the Messiah has said, pointing to the future. Let's understand what it means. There is then step of formation. What is it? Then we find, prior of the freighters taking charge, we must understand some factors. We are speaking of the future spoken of in the past. We have to understand freighting, what it means of becoming a freighter, updating of ports, making loading and unloading faster. 20 hours, for instance, to unload 2,200 containers is a long time. It has to be reduced. We understand ships are going to change their shapes. Those standard size freighting from the 50s invented by an American, as far as the size of the container as it was in the past, those are obsolete. We can't understand what's coming from the Messiah's viewpoint if we then are locked up in the 50s. So then we can simply understand ships are going to be much simpler. Those big containers that we think they are so big, they must be then put together as a square, a big square of those containers. Those become then modules of containers. Those big ships, they can be unloaded and loaded and fueled in 2 hours. Very simple. The technology makes it available. So then we understand from this viewpoint, then the updating of the ports. Rather than having ships coming aside and then container by container is a waste of time. They must drive through where you have then the right side you have loading, the left side you have unloading. Those big square with containers, they come out, and then 2 by 2s, and then it gets loaded at the same time, gets taken care of. Then those big square modules, they are then placed in another area of the port where then they can distribute it to its trucks or whatsoever many trucks is required. So then 2 hours can the job be done, and it truly can. As far as fueling, what would take 6 hours can be done in 2 hours. Only increase the size of the pipe going through. So then, as we understand the clearing away of the ports, the updating of the big ships, how to load them and unload them, how to deal with those separated containers and then placing together as a big square, then we understand the next step. Governments then lining up with the freighters. We understand refineries are going to be the utmost importance. We understand then Africa is going to be the kingdom of the south, extremely rich. As we can understand it from the scripture, kingdom of the south, and when the Creator speaks of a kingdom, He speaks of riches and prosperity of a kingdom. So then, besides this quick introduction, then we find ourselves understanding tabernacling. Comes a time where then tabernacling is going to be available, as per instructions, as what the Messiah said in the 23rd chapter of Meditiahu. Whatsoever Moses told you to do and observe, these do and observe. Must be done. Those are done by the set apart. So if you are not from the Abrahamic lineage, don't be concerned with it at the moment. And then we understand there is this scoundrelized religion. The time of the seat where was concocted then Christianity does not exist. Those are going to be dealt with the Soviet Union. Very simple. So then we understand the kingdom of the East, they have then factory. In the near future, when the system becomes available in the next 36 months, we are basing this understanding from the previous IMF predictions of monetary system-wise. So based upon what they have said and calculated 2 years ago, we have 36 months as a nation with yet an active monetary system with a global usage. We understand this system is coming down. We understand we must start taxing instantly every time there is a parcel, or then lining up government with freighting. Then we understand this area then must be yet sorted through. We find then the kingdom of the East responsible for manufacturing. We find the kingdom of the South very rich, providing ores and then raw materials. We understand then the kingdom of the North, they are going to sort through whatsoever comes from the lineage of the scoundrelized faith. This means the nations of the world related with Christianity, the mixing of the 1,000 years of deceit, they have to go through the Soviet Union. Only those deals that are most profitable, most promising, and with a great potential then are forwarded to China. China won't have any more time to have a nation upon nation upon nations, and then mixing of religions, and then mixing up with the trade, what they think is God, what is not God. China don't have any more time for this kind of a junk. They are very busy with factoring, and they want solid deals, providing raw materials along with those deals that are then okayed for production. Has to have the entire plan backed up prior of placing to production. Those are going to be done by the Soviet Union. So then we begin our quest understanding what the Creator then is doing. Whatsoever is scoundrelized remains scoundrelized. It's dealt with in a certain way. The areas that are pagan remain pagan, doing pagan. So then, whatsoever is tabernacling, we understand tabernacling. So then let's be prepared and wise and understand then the flow of plans, the flow of the monetary system, the flow of the big system yet coming. Let's understand how freighting is going to be. Let's understand how transportation is going to be. And be prepared for what's coming. Because it's not going to be fun for some countries wallowing around, such as America. Time goes by and we don't understand what's coming. We are a country, unfortunately, of mockers. We don't understand the whole instructions. And those few that do understand, they are afraid to speak up. So then let's be very clear of what's coming in the future. Then, when these understandings are then placed and recorded, then comes a time where governments then they lined up with the freighters. Governments, they won't have anymore the luxury of going straight to China to have their bargain. They have to go through the Soviet Union. From there, they are going to evaluate if this project of any nation then is feasible. Can they provide then the raw materials to do this project? Can they provide transportation from the mines? Can they provide then the steady transportation of those minerals to China? Can these minerals then be smelted and then only the prime material then going to China? That's the job of the Northern Kingdom. So let's understand then how the flow is going to be. Nations, they don't have the luxury anymore of going over there to China and spending time over there. You know, some politicians are industrious, some politicians are not industrious. China is extremely industrious. Then you take a person, for instance, in the U.S., who our president was never involved with the production. He was a city organizer. He worked for the CIA for some time. He does not understand manufacturing. Then you mix a person without knowledge of manufacturing with a very highly industrialized nation. What can you understand of the conversation? Nothing. So then, rather than wasting time with leaders without knowledge of manufacturing, then they have to go through another area. So then if a person does not have any knowledge of manufacturing, a person is going to be very awkward. Because the main objective of the Kingdom of the North is establishing deals where there is 100% outcome. Let's say a person goes over there without knowledge of manufacturing. A person is going to simply say, "What are you doing here?" If you want to play politics in your own country, then do your crap on your own. What is the deal? What do you have? What do you want? What is the manufacturing that you are intending of having? And then they're going to evaluate transportation. They're going to evaluate raw materials. Evaluate whatsoever is required to make sure that the report prior of sending to China then is 100% closed, solid deal. So then goes to another phase of the production. If not, then the countries, they can provide themselves. But as then the countries are ordering from China, they can expect then involvement of crude, very important, refineries, and then the updating of the ports. Because as we understand, ports these days is going to change very big. Because the demand is so big, can be sure of it, to unload a very big ship can't take any more 24 hours or 48 hours. Has to be done very quickly. And those modules of containers, absolutely a must. So then it's a huge change of the world's market. But whatsoever is scoundrelized must be clearly marked scoundrelized. What is then pagan remains pagan. What is tabernacling remains tabernacling. So then we can understand there is a creator at work. It's no longer what it used to be. What we've learned during the time of the deceit, wash away from your data. We are during the new times where the time of the dragon requires specialized focus. So then, during this time where nations they have the privilege yet of going through China, make the best of it. Because when the system comes, it won't be anymore. China won't have any more time to spend with countries without industry background, without manufacturing knowledge, and wasting time with people only wallowing around, such as America, the largest consumer and the least production. No more time for this kind of a junk. And those are then obviously similar to other countries. And then when the governments are lined up then with the freighters, then the situation is even further tight. The governments must force themselves understanding the manufacturing, understand transportation, understand road construction, understanding updating of ports. If they don't know how to do the job, the governments are going to be absolutely discarded and contractors are going to be hired. No more reason for governments. Have this in mind. The Creator is very industrious. 6 days he was industrious. A day he rested. So then do the mathematical calculation. It's not complicated.